Welcome back to another episode of Untying Knots. I'm Lyndon.
And I'm Angelica.
And today we have two special guests with us. Usually we get into topics of divorce, but today, instead of untying knots, we actually want to tie a few knots.
Yeah, so I want to introduce you guys to one of my favorite couples that I've gotten to know very dearly, Adam and Desiree. They're here and they are amazing entrepreneurs, digital marketers, bodybuilders, just all around killing it out here in this world. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves.
I am Desiree. I am at Lil Buff Fairy on Instagram and TikTok. I'm a business strategist and a bikini competitor.
My name's Adam. I'm a corporate sales rep for a oil and gas company, and I'm also a online fitness coach.
We got Big Poppy over here. What's up, Big Poppy? Desiree, welcome. We're so happy to have you guys on the set. How long have you guys been married?
This year will be 4 years. Yeah.
4
Got
years.
married on Halloween in 2020.
Married on Halloween?
Halloween.
Really?
Her requirements is getting married on.
Was it like costume theme?
No, we did a mini elopement because we secured our wedding venue the week before the shutdown happened.
Oh, wow.
And so by the time the shutdown happened, obviously no one knew it was going to happen. And we actually tried to pull out of our wedding venue, but that wasn't an act of God for them to return our deposit and for them to cancel our plans. So since we didn't know when the world was going to reopen and jumpstart everything, we were kind of going back and forth on just like different options. Like, okay, what do we do? Because we did want to get married and we weren't going to wait for some hypothetical day to come. And we were throwing around the idea of eloping. And we're like, okay, well, where can we go that we didn't have our passports at the time? And we're kind of like, okay, where can we go that's not Texas and not Arizona? And my dad's side of the family is all from Hawaii. And so we're like, okay, well, we can go to Hawaii. So we're just kind of waiting for the island to reopen and travel to resume. Mm-hmm. And we got everything lined up. And so it was my parents and then his mom and his nephew. And we were out there for about 12 days. And then within like the first 4 days was Halloween. And so we got married Halloween morning.
In Hawaii?
In Hawaii on my favorite beach. And then I wore a black dress. He wore a black shirt and white pants.
White linen pants.
Yeah.
White linen pants. Okay, Big Poppy. I know.
Yeah. And then after our little mini service, we actually streamed it to Facebook Live so that everyone else could see it.
Cool.
Content creators from the get-go.
Yeah. And then we just went to brunch and then went home and changed. And I think we just spent the afternoon. We went hiking to a waterfall and then we just went to the beach and kind of just hung out like it was another day.
Awesome.
Was the wedding destination your honeymoon as well, or did you guys venture somewhere else for a honeymoon?
That's a good question. So the next year, we actually had an actual wedding for the family.
Okay.
And then we ended up doing a kind of like a trip for some friends of ours that were having a wedding. So we ended up going to the Dominican Republic.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
It was kind of an all-in one kind of deal.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. So on today's episode, we really want to talk and highlight marriage. Like I said, a lot of times we talk about divorce, but marriage is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And we always want to endorse that. But we also want to spotlight healthy marriages. Marriages of people that have gone through real things and real challenges and overcome them and had their own collective glow up. So let's get into conversations. Like we heard the marriage story, but kind of bring us to the beginning of like your blueprints, like what type of family you come from, what type of, background, how'd you guys meet, and kind of just take us through your love story.
I think I'll take the blueprint part of it. I come from a little bit different, background when it comes to marriage. My biological parents were never together.
Okay.
They're together long enough to, have me, and they're split up. And then my stepdad came to my life when I was about 5. So then I had him as a father figure, and then my parents, they split up. So then it was kind of a back and forth deal. So I never really had a structured, picture of what a healthy dynamic looked like growing up. So we come from kind of a different background when it comes to that, because she comes from a family that her parents were together for a majority of her childhood.
So my parents, they got together back in 88. So they had my brother first when they got married. And then obviously had me a little bit down the ways. And then when I was about like 6 or 7, they separated. And they still did the co-parenting. And so I was at one house for half the week and the other house the other half of the week. And then by the time I was in high school, they actually got back together. So they were never like, I'm never talking to you again. They were never like hostile or no animosity or anything like that. Like they were still very good like co-parents. And then by the time I was in high school, they got back together and they'd just been together ever since. So it was, It was kind of just one of those things to where even for my parents, they were both military. So I would go periods of like, my mom would be gone for months.
Wow.
And so my dad had to step into kind of both father and mother roles.
Yeah.
But also just the fact kind of in a twisted sense of, I didn't know what it kind of meant to like have a mom that was home most of the time, let alone what a wife role kind of like looked like. Because to me, it was always my mom was working, my mom was deployed, you know, my dad was the one home, my dad was the one taking me to sports practice and doing errands and things like that for me. So it was kind of a different dynamic for me.
Wow. That's interesting. Do you guys feel that the blueprint you had an impact on your relationship styles and attachment styles?
Yeah, I would say so. Because I think for me, up until like our growing pains for like, and just like us maturing into the adults that we are now, I always took the perception of I had to wear the pants. I had to be like the dominant one. And, you know, up until him, like I didn't see myself getting married or I didn't like anyone enough to like be that committed to them. So it was always, okay, how do you fit into my life right now? Because these are my goals. These are my aspirations, you know, and how do you complement what I'm doing? And then once we got together, it was, okay, I have to take a step back because in a normal dynamic, it's I let him lead because he's my partner. And how do I feed off of him and our collective goals? What do we want to accomplish as a couple? As well as how do I support him and encourage him to be his best self and for him to continue to grow and evolve and to be like his, like I said, his best version of himself too.
Right.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think for me, the one thing that was constant in my childhood was my mother. So a lot of that was me trying to, you know, when my mom and my stepdad split up, me and my mom moved out on our own when I was about 18, I think. And so it was growing up pretty fast, trying to figure out how to, you know, whether I need to get a big boy job or go to school or those kind of things. So I had to learn really quickly that life comes at you fast. So I've always tried to be a protector and a provider, especially for my mother, because I've seen her, you know, through, you know, the down times, up times. And so she's a real big motivator for me. So that was kind of my thing, is I was always wanted to take that protector and that provider lead. Then that's kind of what I've tried to do for us.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic because, Des, you said that your mom wasn't there, and so more of the visibility came from your dad, whereas Adam, your mom was there. Yeah. You know, so it's kind of like opposites. How do you think that's influenced you guys as husband and wife now? Like, does your expectation of a wife, is it different because you did see your mom? And Des, do you feel like your role as a wife is like different because you didn't see your mom as often? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for me, I had to unlearn a lot of bad habits.
Okay.
And it was kind of just, I saw what I didn't like and what I didn't want to be like, whether it was just things between my parents or things that I saw from my mom or just things that I saw from like other couples and like other older couples that like I was just around because for us, my brother and I, we were always around like other military families. So we were just kids, and back in the 90s, it was a little bit different for us. Like you were at the adults table and you were at the table to hear these conversations, maybe not to be included to like have your 2 cents, but like you still witness a lot of things. So it's like, okay, well, I was just always very like sponge-like to her, like, okay, I see these things and I like this, I don't like this. And then as I grew older, I obviously developed my own bad habits. And then for us, it was, okay, I have to get rid of these old habits because they're not beneficial to where I want to be and where I want to become as a wife and as a partner for him.
What were some of those bad habits?
I wasn't as vocal in the support aspect. So for me, I internalize a lot of things. And so for me, I just assume that he knows that he's doing a great job. But for him, like, I had to learn and take a step back of the whole like love languages, right?
Yeah.
To where like he appreciates and he he likes that I give that reassurance and I tell him, thank you. Hey, I appreciate you. Hey, I value. Hey, thank you for doing X, Y, and Z, you know, because it's taking the 2 steps for him to feel that recognition and for him to have that fulfillment for him, because he likes to provide and he likes to protect, and everyone, for him, he likes to be told that I appreciate those things and that like I value those things from him.
Would you say that's true, Big Papi?
Yeah, it's pretty correct. You know, for me, it was the not asking for help. So for her, I won't ask for help, but I need it sometimes. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's been my thing as we've grown together, is trying to be a little bit more vulnerable, kind of show her, you know, that kind of side of me. Because, you know, for anyone that really knows me knows that I don't really show much emotion or anything like that. So that was a real big, you know, turning point for me, because growing up, we didn't do that, right?
Yeah.
Ask for help. We didn't cry very much.
Yeah.
It was, you know, got down to business, and, you know, it was another day. So
Right.
that was big for me. And that's kind of been one of our big turning points for our relationship, was being a little bit more vulnerable with each other.
Okay. So obviously you guys are happily married and have a common interest in fitness, which we all know. They go to Alpha Land, so you got to check their content. It's fire. But I want to get into a big struggle that you guys were into and had, and how you got out of it, and just be vulnerable and share with us a moment in your life where it was a turning point in your marriage.
I guess kind of, where do we start? So I guess going back the last couple of years. So back in 2020, we became involved with a franchise. So we were going to open up a franchise. We did. And we were at this like weird fork of, do we have kids or do we start a business? And we chose the business route.
Smart decision.
And I think at that point, you were never really dead set on having children. We were like, oh, if it happens, it happens. But we didn't really sway one way or the other.
Yeah.
So we just always, let's just go for the business aspect.
And with that, you know, that took up a lot of our time and our energy for the last like 4 years. And with that, there was kind of just no start and stop, because we still maintained our full-time careers. We were still going to the gym every day. We were still maintaining all of these habits and like social gatherings that we're doing. Like the show was still going on, and we added on being business owners.
Yeah.
And we built this franchise out from scratch. Yeah. From the full like community development, network development, the build out. Yeah.
Really?
To
Everything.
us selling it last year when we finally moved to Houston.
Congratulations.
And, you know, with that, like I said, there was no start and stop to business and start and stop to establishing the boundaries for where we needed to maintain healthy communication between us, but then like healthy boundaries for like the rest of the world, whether it was work, whether it was the business, whether it was just social life, everything just really blended together, and it got really messy. And then for last year, we were dealing with the stressors of the business, also being that we were moving to Houston. And so just dealing with trying to manage a business from 3 hours away from each other.
Majority of that part, I traveled a lot. So I was gone probably 3 weeks out of the month. So
Oh, wow.
there was very little time for communication. So it was either I was traveling, she was working, we were working on the business, you know, we were trying to still stay in the gym, just trying to juggle all these things. So like you said, it all just started to blend together. We just started kind of losing sight of why we were together, why we were, you know, why we were doing this together.
Yeah. And with that, right, it was because of the stressors of the business, and there was no start and stop to that. That was bleeding too much into our relationship of, we weren't agreeing on, you know, what color purple we liked or what we wanted to eat for dinner, and things that are like
The little things,
little
right?
things.
Did you take for granted?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, we're very, you know, easygoing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you want to do this? Yeah, let's do it. And we just go.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, it just started to be like a clash.
Yeah. Like every little thing is just like
And I
a
think
problem.
the best way to describe it is that we were on the same wave for a long time, and then all of a sudden we just fell off, and we just couldn't reconnect on that way. Whether it was intimacy, whether it was communication, whether it was, you know,
Right.
finances, whether it was just, I mean, everything you could think of just fall into one. You're just like,
And not to say that like he wasn't trying or that I wasn't trying. Like you said, right, with that wave, it was like he would try better one day and I just wasn't receiving it. And I would try better one day and he just wasn't receiving it.
And you get frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Connect, yeah.
You're trying to make this thing work, and with all the other outside sources and things, it's like you get tired. And I think that's the biggest thing for me was I was like, I'm just tired there. I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
One of the things I felt in my marriage was that, you know, how you expect to always change, but like change together as a couple, like for the better. And sometimes positive life events can happen that kind of push you in different directions as individuals. I know for us, it was like having our second child, and then like I landed my dream job. So it's like on the outside looking in, it was like, oh, these are wonderful things that are happening to your family. But on the inside, we really started like kind of, like you guys said, like we're the same way, but we weren't surfing in the same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we used
it's
to.
Similar too, right? If you were to look out from the outside in, you're like, man,
They're killing it, yeah.
They got the house, they got the cars, they got the business, they got all these things. Mm-hmm. And on the inside, it's just turmoil. Like we're just trying to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
And I was going to say, and I, not that like it was a turning point, but it was probably a turning point for the worst, was last year we lost my dad in February.
Sorry to hear that.
I just fell into a really dark depression state. And, you know, that happened in February. Then we moved to Houston in April. And it was very difficult for both of us because going back to the whole him not asking for help, I didn't know how to ask for help through my grieving process because I didn't know what I needed. Everything just felt on fire. And I'm trying to like relay that to him. And
it's difficult for me because I've never lost a parent. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even imagine what she's going
Yeah.
Yeah, how to respond to that.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm just like, what can I do for her? Right. And, you know, we just tried to work through it. It just, like I said, it just wasn't connecting.
Right.
And then so that was kind of happening during the summertime. By July, I kind of just threw my hands up. I'm like, okay, we clearly can't like be in the same space. Like this just isn't working. Like I'm just going to go to my mom's house and just take some time apart because whatever we're trying to do here just isn't working. And we were kind of just agreeing that it was making things worse. Like us trying one day and not working and not clicking. And we just couldn't like effectively communicate. And we couldn't comprehend what we were trying to say either, right? Because I'm trying to say one thing and he's understanding it a different way. Yep. And vice versa. And so
if you'd have walked into our house at any given point between that and that time, there was divorce papers on the table. Like that's how close we were.
Really?
Yeah. And it was just a matter of somebody just picking them up and signing them.
Was it a mutual thing, or was that more of a decision of?
I think initially it was me because, like I said, I was just tired and I was just I just didn't know what to do anymore. Like I couldn't protect her. I didn't feel like I was being a good provider for her. I wasn't being a support system for her, and not that I wasn't trying. It's just we just couldn't.
I wasn't connected.
Right. And so for me, I'm just like I'm real big. If something's not going to work, then it's time to like walk away or you know. And so I think initially it was me, and then you know at some point it was like a mutual thing. Like we love each other, but we're just like we just can't get it. We can't get it together.
And I guess to take a step back too, right? Like months prior to this, like months prior to like me putting divorce papers on the countertop, we had tried marriage counseling and we had discussed, you know, me going through the grieving process, and the counselor that we had at the time was really just, well, you have to tell him what you need.
Yeah.
But it's all
about it.
Yeah.
It's easy for somebody to tell you that, right?
Right.
It's easy for somebody to look at you.
Yeah.
You just need to tell them what you need. It's like,
right.
She doesn't know how to project that or even, you know, where to start. Where do you start with something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you shut down because it was very difficult. You were going through your grieving process and you were trying to deal with that. But at the same time, when we go through grieving, we shut down because we need to go through the grieving process. And that probably was where things probably took a turn because she shut down and there wasn't no communication going through.
It was that. And then I was still very much high functioning depressed because amongst all of this, we still had the business and I still had my job. And all of these other things still had to keep going. So for the 2% battery that I had was being split amongst these other things. And so it still came back to the scraps were what I was trying to save this with. And it just, it wasn't working. And so like I said, by the time I left in July back to my mom's, I I really had nothing left to give. I'm like, I'm literally empty. Like I can't work. I can't do the business. I can't do anything really. Like and for me, that hopelessness and that I can't accomplish anything, I can't do anything is very opposite for my personality.
Yeah.
So for me to not being able to do anything, like that was almost like even worse.
Right.
Because it was very much a personality that I couldn't resonate with. I'm like, how do I get myself out of this?
Yeah.
You know, because everything else, I'm like, okay, just we can talk, we can work through these things, or I can do something for the business. Like I can solve most problems, but I couldn't solve this one. And so at that point, we kind of just agreed for me to just leave the house. Of course, he stayed home with our dogs and kind of just kept the show going in Houston. And then while I was gone in Arizona, found out that I was pregnant. And we had this like kind of awkward conversation over FaceTime because it was, okay, well,
Yeah.
not the news that
You
we
want it
want.
at that time in your
Yeah.
marriage.
Yeah.
What a time to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I initially thought it was kind of like not a joke, but it was kind of just like kind of.
A lie.
A floozy or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like they try to.
Yeah, just maybe just something,
Of course.
and, like, not that's her personality, but you're just like, really, this time, like, at this moment in time right now, this is what we're going through. So, yeah, I'll let her continue, but yeah, we had that on our plate to deal with.
So yeah, so once we found that out, I didn't leave back immediately. I'm like, okay, well, I still have to process this and wrap my head around it. And I'm sure he did too, because I'm like, okay, well, I can't just like show up tomorrow and be like,
Surprise.
surprise, yeah. So after a couple of days, finally came back to Houston, and I was still under the impression that I'm like, okay, well, I know that this is not the best news. Like, I'm not expecting this to like fix anything, and for us to be like the little etch a sketch and be like scratch, erase everything that happened the last few months or the last year is like gone and dissipated. I'm like, no, we still have this laundry list of things that we have to work through and kind of clean up before, if this is a thing, then this needs to be taken care of before this comes.
Right.
And so even with that, like we were still on very different pages, because like at first, like he was really excited. He's like, well, why aren't you excited? And I'm like, well, I was gone for the last 3 weeks for a reason. Like this doesn't just replace that. And then I'd be really excited because I'm like, okay, cool. Like maybe this really is a thing. And like, maybe like there kind of is like that light at the end of the tunnel. And
It's supposed to happen.
yeah.
Right. And a lot of couples believe that having children will fix their underlying issues.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It actually exacerbates them. 10x.
We had a really one of the most like probably in-depth real conversations we've ever had in the car when we got back from when I picked her up, and it was we know that this is not going to fix anything, like and we need to make sure that whatever decision we make, it needs to be that there's going to be a child here, whether this is not going to keep us together.
Yeah.
Are we going to try to make this work because of the child, or do we need to start worrying about co-parenting and those kind of things? So it was a very, very big conversation. That was
Yeah, that's a real conversation.
yeah. And so, there was crying, and there was, we just took it as it came, and tried to make the best decision for us, and then, potentially a child. And so then we, well, I'll go ahead and let you continue, but yeah, she's good at telling the story.
But then come August, we were at the gym, or I forgot where we were. And I'm sure as a mom, you know when something is no longer right. When the morning that I decided to take a pregnancy test, I was still, I hadn't even missed my period. I just had this random thought in my head. I was at the gym training legs, and I'm like, random thought, what if I'm pregnant? And I'm like, that's a stupid thought. That's not even like a plausible thing right now. Like that'd be insanity, or that'd be insane for that to happen right now. Went to the grocery store, picked up a 2-pack, and I'm like, great, these are positive. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, why is this happening right now? Flash forward to August, I just knew that something was no longer right. And couldn't explain it. It was just a feeling. And I think after about a week, finally went to the women's hospital, to the ER on a Saturday, and was there for a few hours, and they couldn't tell me here nor there because I hadn't even had my first appointment yet. It was scheduled for the following week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we can't tell you yes or no. We can confirm that there's something in there, but we just can't tell you if you're progressing or digressing. And for me, it was still kind of one of those things, for as far as I knew I should have been, I knew it wasn't good news. But for him, it was, well, he had the reassurance that I actually was pregnant and I wasn't just saying something to just like keep him around, right? So I'm already starting to digest that. I'm like, okay, well, this is a miscarriage and this isn't happening, and I have to mentally prepare for what it will physically follow. But for him, he's like, no, you have to be optimistic. Like, everything's going to be fine. Everything is going to be okay. Like, we're just going to check again in a couple of days. So he was still very optimistic, and I kind of had already checked out. More for protecting myself, because I'm like, I've already dealt with the last months grieving my dad. Like, I don't even know how to grieve a miscarriage that, like, maybe I wanted, maybe I didn't want, because it was just amongst
the terms that it was on.
Yeah.
Right.
And so by the time they did finally confirm a couple of days later that I was having a miscarriage, then it was kind of like, okay, thank you for believing me.
Right.
But also it was just like that the first couple of days was just really draining and difficult, because it kind of came back to the whole day one of, I don't know how to express this. I don't know how to explain this. I just don't feel good. I don't feel right. Obviously, my body is doing things that it's never done before.
Yeah.
And kind of going back for him, I'm like, I don't know how to ask for support. I don't know how to ask for, I don't know how to ask for sympathy. I'm like, I don't want your sympathy. I want solutions.
Yeah.
You know? So for me to come to him and say, I need sympathy, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. I don't know what it means for me.
This is what, 2-3 years into your marriage? You're going through this?
3 years.
3 years into it. So I feel like that's a lot of things. Like, you move out of that honeymoon stage, everything's like peaches and cream. And then, like, some of you were like around year 2, year 3, like, marriage starts to really happen.
Set in.
And we thought we were onto something, right? Because, we went through COVID together, like, and that's a lot of...
Yeah, a lot of divorces happen.
That's when my marriage died.
Mine too.
We loved being together. We were just like, well, this is awesome. Can we just always do this,
Because
right?
you were always so far apart.
We just bought a house. We were hanging out. We're doing just everything we wanted to do with each other. Like, this is great. Like, let's keep doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
And then life happens. So
Yeah. And, another part of it, too, is like the people that you are at your wedding are not the people that you are 2, 3, 4 years into your marriage. Like, you change as people. We evolve. We grow. And so in life events, the death of a parent, birth, business, selling, all those things like change part of who you are, your perspectives, your values, and how you navigate in your relationship. And like you guys are saying, like a big challenge, it sounds like, was communication. Like, how do each of you just express your feelings to each other? So how did you guys navigate that? Coming through the miscarriage, you wanted solutions, not sympathy. How did you guys overcome that season of your marriage?
I think for me, it was where we really redefined and we're starting to define what our relationship and our marriage meant for us, right? Because between reading books, reading articles, listening to videos, listening to a counselor, right? They're telling you all these different things. And for us, we're trying to figure out what actually worked for us. And kind of going back to like my upbringing, I was still trying to take control of the situation. And I ultimately had to learn how to take a step back and trust him to kind of guide us, because I just wasn't in a position to do anything. So I had to, step back into, I always say, like, my lane, right? Because originally I do trust him to protect and provide, but I also have to give him the space and the ability to do those things. And if I'm just more vocal saying, hey, I'm not feeling it today, or hey, something's just off, or hey, I'm at like a 20% today, like it sounds dumb for some people to go and like check in like that. But that little bit, like, he knows how to take that and run with it.
And I think to add to that, it's the vulnerability part of it, right? Is to be okay not being okay. Right. And I think for both of us, right? Because we're so just used to winning and used to like getting things done and not having to worry about anybody else, that we went through a lot of our marriage like that. We were married, but we were on our own path, right? We were like, whether it was our corporate jobs, whether it was fitness, things like that. we took those on our own, and we were there with each other, but we never really needed to rely on each other. So when we went through this, like it was a time for us to both say, hey, look, we're not okay. And it's okay. That's okay. And I'm here for you and you're here for me. So let's lean on each other for once and let's just start to, cultivate that trust in each other. Not that we didn't, but just that undying, like, trust that no matter what happens, like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And just keep going.
And it sounds like the gym became your therapy.
Yeah, because amongst everything, like for me, my depression was always the worst first in the morning, because my dad and I were extremely close, and pretty much like the moment I woke up to like the moment I was walking into the gym, I was talking to my dad. So that was always the most difficult time, was me waking up and like having to like just start the day. So for me, I was always just like in a rush. I'm like, okay, well, I just fill this gap and I'm just already at the gym, then I'll at least feel better because I'm at least at the gym and there's no space for me to not miss my dad or to miss this routine that I had. And so with that, it was still went to the gym every day, still like was training and like trying to just like go through the motions and like just have some sort of like normalcy to where I could. And it was the same thing for him too, where like there are days that we would go together, we would go separately, we would train together, we would kind of do our own thing. But then as we're going through all of these things, like he's also reiterating to me that like I can't always go like 200 the way like I normally do. And that was still very much a learning curve for me of, okay, I'm not okay right now, and I can't just keep burning myself out. Like I have to take a step back. And I had to be okay with him telling me those things and not becoming like defensive or protective of like, why are you telling me these things? So going back to just accepting that vulnerability of he knows me best next to me. And if he's telling me that something's off with me or like that I breathe wrong, it's kind of a funny joke of, do you love me because you breathe wrong or you throw your shoes on angrily? That's a real thing because like he knows how to read my energy just right out of his.
Yeah.
And if he's telling me, hey, you need to chill in it, then I'm like, oh yeah, probably too, because I'm just like going. And he's like, you need to put the brakes on. But then that progressively turned into this new rhythm that we had to where he decided that he wanted to get back into competing because.
Yeah, and I think for me, that was kind of, I needed something for myself.
Yep.
It was something that I needed. I've always been a, competitor, whether it was, high school sports, mixed martial arts, bodybuilding, anything. It was just, I need something for myself, something that I can just like, it's just me against everything else. Yeah. And having her there with me, it was good because I was able to kind of lean on her, and it was kind of that little turning point where it was like, we could do this together.
I know for all of us, like the gym was basically like a coping mechanism or like a way out through the problems that we're having in our relationships. And I feel like that's when I went through like my second physique transformation. Yeah. It was like coming out of my divorce, like just pouring all that negative energy out into the gym. But all those hours, all those reps, all those sets were really like in getting my life back in order, like my sleeping, eating right, getting my finances back after a divorce. All these things started to line up, and then I just started to see like the progress, like from the inside out, like how I felt, how I thought, mental clarity. My body starts changing, people adapting, life is getting better. And so like, the gym is such a great way if you're going through any type of challenges to, it's a healthy coping mechanism.
Right.
And all of us could attest to that.
Yeah.
What's that?
I did my first competition in the middle of my divorce. I actually got on stage, competed, won third place, and the week after my divorce was finalized. But I'll tell you this, and just like we do as bodybuilders, we pour all of our energy into this, that after I got off of stage, I ended up having to deal with the divorce because I used my competitor nature and my competitor, what I was doing to mask the emotions that I then had to deal with after I got off of stage. So yeah, we have common ground.
Yeah, for sure. And which is a great plug for what you guys do on the fitness side and your fitness business and coaching.
Yeah, so we've actually just kind of launched our new online coaching business. I'm the head coach for Upbringings Training Concepts, and Des is kind of the support system when it comes to the female clientele. She helps them with, diet, just mental support, things like that. She's actually going out to Arizona to support one of her clients on her first competition. So it's been good for us on that.
And to reiterate, everything that you just said, right? Being in the gym, whether it's lifestyle or as a competitor, if you don't have balance amongst all of those things, mental, emotional, physical, relationship, career, your prep or just your progress, can go very poorly.
Yeah, they will be hindered.
Yeah. And at the same time, there's this missing gap of what it needs to actually juggle, a career and being a bodybuilder, because there's this lens of the fitness industry that if you're a competitor, you're a trainer, and you're just always in the gym. But for, everyday people, that's not the case. And I'm a consultant, and so I know many consultants that are competitors, and they travel 4 days out of the week. And so it's also this, well, how do you travel and be on prep and hit the gym and hit your meals and, not have a glass of wine at that, client meeting? And how do you not eat that extra donut, in the office, and all of these things that come full scope and full circle for the everyday person. That for me, I try to target, how do you establish those healthy habits and not just don't, have this or don't eat those things, when that's still instilling an unhealthy mental capacity. Because if you're restricting yourself, then you're like, well, I want that thing that I can't have. And then for us, like I said, it's just he establishes the plan as a program of hey, this is how do we get you from A to B or A to Z, and Z being your competition or your goal weight or whatever. And I'm that support buddy of, okay, let's break this down, and how do we get you there so that you don't fall off? You make this maintainable, and you take what you learn here and actually apply it to your off season. Yeah. And how do you establish these as normal habits and just things that you're a little bit more conscious about?
One of the things I always say, the gym isn't about building physical strength all the time. It's really about mental strength. You're really training and pushing your mind to put yourself under certain stress to perform at a certain level to get a certain result. Yeah. And that transfers into real life, because we go through real things of real life, and you have to have mental fortitude, mental strength to be put under stressful situations and push through it to your goal.
Yeah, and I think everybody should, at some time in their life, and just in a healthy aspect, is, try to get on stage or try to do something along those lines. It helps with the instant gratification that everybody's so used to, right? Mm-hmm. That it's just, everything's just right there to push up a button or then hand at a grasp, and you get that chance to kind of find out who you are. And I think it's really good for personal growth and mental growth.
Agree. Well, what advice would you give to somebody, let's say they've been married a couple of years and they're kind of going through that first rift of actually setting into their marriage? What would be your advice for them to kind of persevere through whatever challenges that they're going through?
I think the biggest thing I would say is just continue to work on yourself individually, right? I think at some point, the spotlight is on, whether it's the husband or whether it's the wife, and the other person feels kind of left out. And so I think that kind of makes a little bit of a divide. So if you're constantly working on yourself, you'll both shine together. And I think that's kind of why our dynamic works so well, is that we're constantly working on ourselves, but for each other. So that way, my biggest thing is I want her to become the me. And the same thing is I'm proud of her, and that's what we kind of strive to do. Yeah. So I would say, when you hit those rough times, don't just give up. Kind of take a step back and say, am I doing everything I can individually, right? Well, it doesn't have to be fitness aspect. It could be mentally. It could be, communication, financially, anything that you think that you're struggling at, work on those things first, right? Don't just kind of try to turn the page and move on. Because, there's some great things that happen on the other side of adversity.
That's solid. Please.
And I think to add to that is to turn inward. It's really easy for someone to go and say, oh, we're having problems, let me go talk to someone else. But it's okay to get that sympathy, not solution kind of aspect of it. But that can add to the problems, because it's, oh, well, so-and-so said you should be doing X, Y, and Z. Why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? And that's going back to us, where we had to define what our relationship meant for us and how do we support each other, because it's, okay, well, how do I show up for you so that you can show up for me?
Right.
And not because some book said this or some counselor said that, or, the internet is saying that you should be doing these things. I'm like, well, that's not his character to do those things. So why would he start doing right? So going back to just turn to your partner to understand, what does this mean for us?
The thing I'd like to encompass that is keep everybody out of your business. I think in your column, stay at home, right?
Yeah.
I know it's really easy to run to your parents, run to your friends, run to, like you said, you get so much different, information from other outside sources that don't know the day-to-day working of what's going on. So that it's hard for them to give you advice on your relationship.
Yeah.
And I'd say, if you need to get information, but take it with a grain of salt and see how you can implement that going forward.
What would you say, Angelica?
Yeah, we talked about this in our last episode about keeping your business between yourselves. What happens outside, everybody from the outside looking in, it looks great, right? But nobody knows what's happening really outside or inside of the closed doors. And I always like to say it like this. When you're sharing with somebody, always ask two things. Do you want me to listen or do you want my opinion? Because people are very quick to give opinions when really sometimes you just want to be heard. So again, we go back to that solution. Do you want a solution or you just want to be heard? Because sometimes we just want to be heard. So yeah, very important.
Yeah, I think my advice will be, it's so easy to blame your spouse for some problems instead of looking at yourself first. And we really can't control the other person.
Right.
But you can't control yourself. So taking a moment of accountability to reflect inward, to think about, well, what is my contribution to the challenges we're having and what can I do to change myself? And in turn, working with my partner to help influence them positively. I think a lot of times we try to change the other person because we assume we're the right, So that was a lot of my mistake in my marriage is that, I'm always looking like, oh, it's her fault.
Right.
It was
When you figure
the whole time, I was like, bro, you're tearing this shit up.
right, you gotta take accountability for your own actions.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I love it. Do you mind hit us with a closing statement?
Yes, so I love that you guys came and you were honest and apologetic yourselves. I think that you brought a lot of just insight into going through a traumatic experience and then coming out of it and learning from it. So we want to remind you guys that we do have a glow guide that Lyndon and I made. It's in our stand store, and really we take you through the entire process of how we grieved our marriages and went through our existential blow up. So go check it out. It's in our stand store, and we'll start your elevation process.
Yes, and stay tuned for part 2 of this episode. We have special guests for you. Welcome back to part 2 of episode 6. We have 4 special guests with us on this part of the show. And we really wanted to include our kids in the conversation of divorce. A reality is that a lot of people stay together for the kids, right?
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people stay married. And I get it, right? It's hard to put your family, your kids through a divorce situation.
For sure.
Was that something you considered? Staying together for the kids?
No, not at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Or
Because,
you had to get out?
I had to get out. I had no choice.
But a lot of times, staying in a relationship just for the kids is just as hard, if not worse, than going through the pains of divorce. And we wanted to invite our kids on the show today to hear their experiences of what it felt like to go through divorce. So we have 2 special guests. Tell us your name.
Belen.
And how old? Zion and Belen. How old are you guys?
6.
8
6.
and 6. Okay. What do you guys like to do for fun?
Go to Christmas.
Go to Christmas? That's it? Yeah.
Why do you?
Actually, go to ABA.
Go to ABA.
What do you like to do for fun, Belen?
Do cheer.
Do cheer. Okay, you're really good at cheer and flipping and tumbling and all that stuff. So, Justin, what do you want to?
So I want to ask you guys how, and we're going to go with Belen first, okay? How did it feel when mommy and daddy split up?
Sad because then I would have a bunch of fun in our big house, and I I get a little bit happy because I get 2 Christmases and 2 of every like Valentine's, Halloween.
Yeah. Zion, how about you? How did you feel when mommy and daddy split?
I feel fine.
You feel fine?
Yeah.
You weren't sad when mommy and daddy split? And we had a different house and daddy had a different house?
2 times. But you changed your house 2 times.
I did. I did change my house.
And daddy, so I'll say
It was good?
a little bit sad and a little bit and a lot good.
Okay.
Right now.
Why do you think why did mommy and daddy break up? Do you guys know?
I know.
What?
Because maybe you will have a better time being together.
Okay.
No, that was wrong.
That was wrong.
I think because you're fighting and also you can't get along.
Okay. And then how's the relationship now with mommy and daddy?
It's good because y'all don't see each other often and
But then how about mommy and daddy? We have a better relationship now?
Mhm.
Yeah, and we have family days? Yeah. Zion, what do you have to say about mommy and daddy now?
I'll say I know you guys woke up cause you thought you will have a better life not being together.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, that's really sweet. It's always good to hear, like, even what he just said is that it's hard for kids, and kids adapt, right, to so
Right.
many changes.
They're very adaptable, more than us, yeah.
We're a lot more rigid. And so a lot of times it's not to encourage divorce, but it's to challenge the narrative that staying together just for the kids might not be the best thing for your kids.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to share?
Me,
What do you want to share, Zion?
I want to share that I love my family.
Oh, we love you too, Vivek. Is that it?
I love my cousin.
Oh yeah, your cousins. They're kind of wild, huh?
Really wild.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else, Billy?
And they have pretty eyes.
They do have pretty eyes. Anything else? No? You're good? Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for coming on and telling us your truth, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
They're so cute.
Yay.
Yay! So we are, bye, Vivek. We are back to part 2, our episode 6. We have some special guests. We actually brought our kids here today because we want to get a deeper perspective on children of divorced parents. So,
Yes, I brought my 2 kids with me today. You want to say your name, sweetheart, and how old you are?
My name is Isabella and I'm 8 years old.
And what about your name, handsome?
And I'm Noah and I'm 6 years old.
Okay, welcome to the show. How you guys feel?
I'm nervous.
Nervous? Good. What you scared about, Bowie?
Sharing everything.
Oh, you're going to do fine, love. You're going to do fine. So, look, I want to ask you guys a couple questions. How do you feel when Mama and Papa broke up?
I feel sad because when I'm at your house, I miss Mommy. When I'm at Mommy's house, I miss you.
Mm-hmm.
And when y'all were together, it was much easier.
Really? How do you feel, Noah, when Mama and Papa broke up?
When you was like wanting to fight, I was so sad and I was trying to cry.
Mm-hmm. Does it still make you sad that Mama and Papa aren't together?
Yes, a lot.
Really?
Yes, super lot.
You wish we got back together?
Yes, so that it'll be easier in life.
Mm-hmm. Do you think? Why do you think Mama and Papa broke up?
Because y'all wanted to see other worlds when y'all were like apart, so y'all wanted to see how it was when y'all were separated instead of being together.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Noah? Why did Mama and Papa break up?
Because you wanted to be in different places because boys and girls don't get to chill.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's better that mom and papa aren't together than what it was when we were together?
Kind of. When y'all were together, it was much easier. But when y'all started breaking up, life got harder.
Really? What got harder?
Because sometimes I miss both of y'all when I'm at either of y'all houses. For example, like if I'm at your house, I miss mommy. If I'm at mommy's house, I miss you. It's kind of hard when y'all are separate. It was easier when y'all were together.
Do you think it's been better now that it's been a little bit of time?
Yes.
What about you, Noah? You said kind of. You said it's kind of good that it's gotten better. What makes you feel that way?
Because when it was funny, it was super loud outside, so I didn't like it. So I hid under my small ankle blanket.
Oh, you would hide when we would have our fights?
Mm-hmm.
But now, since we're not together, we don't fight anymore. Do you feel like mom and papa get along better now?
Yes. But now we're friends.
Yeah, we're cool. We're still homies. Well, that's cool. What would you, anything else you want to say?
That I wish that y'all could just be together so that life would be easier and mommy could come on the cruise ship. Cause it's just Papa's family that's coming, not mommy's family. And I really want mommy to come.
Okay, no, what do you have to say?
Because when I miss mommy, I miss you. When I'm in when I'm at yours, I miss Papa. And when we're at the other country, I miss my cousins.
Oh. Well, I'm sorry that won't be good back with your mother. But I love you guys with my whole heart. And I still, to this day, I hate that you guys have to go through that experience of divorce. But I hope that you understand that we tried to do the best thing that we could do for all of us. And part of that is sometimes we have to go through hard things for it to get better. But I love you.
Hey guys, make sure to like and subscribe on this video.
My voice. My boy.
Yes. That was amazing. Good job, guys.